What's going on, guys? It's Jimmy here. Welcome to our daily show where we discuss the fourth stimulus check update, the stimulus package update, daily news, pretty much everything you need to know about on what's going on in our country, money, investing, the stock market. Remember that new videos come out here on our channel every day at 10 a.m., 3 p.m., and 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. If you find these videos helpful, don't forget to hit the like button for us down below. We have a lot going on here as they're trying to finalize and vote on the next stimulus package and the bipartisan physical infrastructure package here within the next few days, and trying to finalize getting Senator Joe Manchin and Senator Kirsten Sinema on board and get their final approval. To once they get their approval, then they could start the voting process on this next stimulus package. So there's a lot going on here, as well as check this out. Florida has removed federal aid from schools for mask mandates. Yeah, the battle between the Florida governor, Ron DeSantis, and schools has now escalated even more. Check this out. The Florida Department of Education this week withheld hundreds of thousands of dollars in federal funding from two school districts because of their masking policies, defying warnings from the Biden administration. Alachua County officials, in a statement, said their state stripped more than $160,000 this week as punishment from the school district requiring masks. That figure equals the monthly salary of 5 school board members, as well as the entire amount of the federal grant meant to compensate school districts that have their money withheld by the state. Separately, Broward County said the state withheld more than $450,000, which the county said encompasses the monthly school board salary as well as the full amount of federal grant funding. Since August, the county said Florida has withheld nearly $533,000 in funding. The announcements come just one day after the Biden administration warned the state that such a move would violate federal law and represents an escalation over the administration's battle with Florida Governor Ron DeSantis, a Republican, over COVID safety measures in school. Both Alachua and Broward counties have instituted mask requirements for all students and staff, regardless of vaccination status. The Broward County School Board on Tuesday voted to make mask optionals for high school students, staff, and visitors, but kept the mask mandate in place for elementary and middle schools. The Alachua superintendent said, quote, "I am appalled that the state would penalize the district by pulling funding that we haven't even yet received." According to the superintendent, the state has withheld more than $192,000 over the past 2 months because the district was, quote, "taking appropriate action to protect students and staff." Let me know your thoughts on this down below in the comments. This is probably going to go to the courts, maybe even the Supreme Court. The Biden administration could get involved. And yeah, it's not a pretty situation. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. Another situation is 21 House Democrats are calling for removing the IRS bank reporting proposal from the spending bill, the stimulus package. This is the proposal where they want the IRS to be able to look into your bank account and basically be able to spy on your bank transactions for as low as, they initially started off as $600. If you had $600 in your bank account, they would be able to look in your bank account, and then they moved it up to $10,000. The problem with this is that, well, still almost everybody in the United States makes at least $10,000, and now we have 21 House Democrats calling to remove this IRS bank reporting proposal from the stimulus package. However, the Biden administration is still pushing to include the IRS proposal in this spending bill despite criticism, as this is one of the items that would pay for hundreds of billions of dollars, or at least $100 billion in this stimulus package. And at this point, they still want to include it despite criticism. So Yeah, let's we'll have to see what happens here. There's a lot of changes going on with the stimulus package. Here is Representative Jayapal, leader of the Democratic Progressive Caucus, leader of 96 Democrats in the House, saying they're not going to vote for the bipartisan infrastructure package. Check this out.
So the vote comes tomorrow, Congressman, the infrastructure bill. You're going to vote against it.
I don't think the Speaker has ever brought a bill to the floor that doesn't have the votes. And right now there are over 36 members, and that number is only increasing, who feel very strongly that these two bills need to move together.
And the president can convince you to change your mind.
I don't think so. I mean, I've said to people, this is where I think the president is. This is where I think the Speaker is. I want you to be really sure. I'm a really good vote counter, as I've said before. I like to know, but I like to present people with all the information. And people feel very strongly about this.
So that was Representative Jayapal. If you remember, we've had several different Democratic leaders saying they were trying to do a vote by Wednesday, which would have been yesterday, on the bipartisan infrastructure package and maybe the stimulus package if they had agreements. Obviously, that didn't happen. Now they're saying maybe a vote could happen today if they have agreements. All of this is in limbo because votes are not going to happen, is basically what she's saying. And if you've been following along, you know that they're not going to vote until they have the agreements set in stone. Okay, so basically the way things are going to go down is if they can get everything agreed upon, then they're going to vote as soon as possible. So they're trying to say, hey, we want to vote on it tomorrow. They wanted to vote on it by Wednesday. Basically, they're saying we want to vote on it as soon as we can get agreement. So that basically means as soon as Joe Manchin and Kirsten Sinema, they can get things agreed upon, they're going to vote on it. So that's the basic gist of things. And there's several different major key points that they have to agree upon, like the Medicare proposal, hearing, dental, and vision for seniors, like 65 million seniors. Joe Manchin doesn't want to vote for that. Joe Manchin doesn't want to vote for the paid leave and medical leave. Joe Manchin doesn't want. What does Joe Manchin want to vote for? You know, we have multiple different groups calling to add a $1,400 to $2,000 stimulus check in there for adults, in addition to the monthly checks for children, $250 to $300 per month, that are expected to be included in there for 65 million children, called the child tax credits. Those are expected to be in there for one more year. The child tax credits are going to end on December 15th if they can't pass this package. So those monthly checks will stop on December 15th. If they can't pass this package, that'll be the last check. The other big deadline is that before December 15th, around December 3rd, will be the debt limit. So potentially that last payment for December 15th could not actually happen if they can't pass the stimulus package before then, because remember, they passed a temporary extension on the debt limit, which basically means the country's right to print money. They have to actually pass an agreement in Congress for the country to have the right to print money, so to speak, which is called the debt limit. And they passed a temporary extension just a few weeks ago. My, how time flies, right? And they're going to have to do it again. This time around, the Republicans say they're not going to partake in it because, well, we had 11 Republicans help pass it last time, including Mitch McConnell, Republican leader, minority leader in the Senate. But right after they passed it, literally a minute later, Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer slammed them, basically blasted them. I didn't think that was a good idea. I think he should have just said, thanks for helping, at least to the 11 Republicans who kind of did their job and helped pass it. You know, the other Republicans really didn't do their job, and the other 39 Republicans didn't really do their job and help pass it. But the 11 Republicans did. We have to pass it to prevent the government from defaulting. But he blasted the 11 Republicans that did help pass it, and now Mitch McConnell says no Republican will help you this time around. So the Democrats have to pass it on their own through the stimulus package, but is Joe Manchin and Kirsten Sinema going to come along? Also, Nancy Pelosi hasn't even confirmed if they're going to put the debt limit extension in this stimulus package. Are they going to actually do it? Are they going to pass it and put the debt limit extension in this package? They haven't even told us if they're going to do that. Nancy Pelosi was asked in an interview a few days ago, and she basically sidestepped the question and said, well, we'd rather have a Republican-Democrat agreement, but we know that's not going to happen, so who knows what's going to happen. And if they don't do it, the country will literally default for the first time ever, run out of money, which means that, and they've said this, Social Security payments might not go out, child tax credit payments might not go out. The country will literally default, and that's going to happen in about a month, a little bit over a month. So we're going to have to do this all over again. Yeah. Here's Democratic Congressman Josh Gottheimer, who's the co-chairman of the Problem Solvers Caucus, with a lot of details on voting and what needs to happen here with the bipartisan infrastructure package and the stimulus package to get the job done, with a lot of details on negotiations here.
Congressman, New Jersey is already a high-tax state. And I know you get a lot of pressure from people in your state who say increasing taxes was going to change and hurt their lifestyle, maybe cause them to leave the state. Now this new proposal, 100% of the billionaires are still going to be billionaires if they have to pay this tax. How's this going to fly in your state?
Well, thanks for having me. It's obviously game time, as you said, and one of the key parts of this is the revenue. And as was reported, a lot of these questions are still up in the air, right? And how much SALT, the state and local tax deduction, which has to be part of this package, how will that be part of this package? Because for me, that's about getting tax relief to my district. And of course, as you say, there are other provisions that really aren't even written yet in the way that we can look at. And we're trying to go through every part and understand how it's going to impact districts like mine. But Stephanie, what is important is that we get both of these packages done, that we get a vote this week on the bipartisan infrastructure bill before the president goes away, and then we have an agreement.
Then none of that makes sense. If you haven't seen the language, if it hasn't been ironed out, how on earth is that going to happen? And at the same time, you're saying we got to vote on this thing this week. How does that math work?
Because
look at the calendar.
Because the bipartisan infrastructure bill, which passed out of the Senate with 69 votes, 50 Democrats, 19 Republicans, in the beginning of August, is sitting here waiting for us to act. That's 2 million jobs a year. That's what the president came to New Jersey about, building the Gateway Tunnel between New York and New Jersey, roads, bridges, and rails. The other package, as you're talking about, is making sure that we can get to an agreement on that, and that's obviously what we're all working around the clock trying to do, which includes what you talked about earlier, the revenue side of that, and obviously that includes climate change, fighting climate change, and child care, and SALT, and other reinstating the state and local tax deduction, and all these other provisions, and that's what we're trying to get into an agreement on. If we can get to that agreement, to that framework, we can vote, according to some of the folks in my party who are holding up a vote on the infrastructure package, the roads and the bridges, right? They're holding it up until we get that agreement. So that's what this is all about.
So when? Because let's be honest, Congressman, for the last 2 months, you've been saying, let's vote on the first part and then we'll work on the second. None of that's changed. Tell me what has changed this week. When are you going to vote on hard infrastructure? When are you going to vote on human infrastructure?
Well, you're right, Stephanie, about the frustration of not voting. Common sense would dictate that we would vote on this bipartisan infrastructure bill. We've got elections coming up next week. On October 31st, the trust fund for building roads, bridges, and all our other physical infrastructure literally runs out unless we have this vote or have a separate vote to reauthorize it temporarily, right? So all of that is a huge pressure point that we should vote on this. And people back home are saying to me, why aren't you just voting on this bill on infrastructure that's sitting in Congress waiting for you? But, somehow, for some reason, it's being held hostage by this other bill. So I'm hoping this week, Stephanie, and the Speaker, we met with her yesterday, and others really want to vote this week. We need to have the President, though, to weigh in and say, we want to vote this week on infrastructure. He's got to say, I feel good enough about where we are in the good faith negotiations on that reconciliation package, on the social infrastructure package. And once he feels good enough, I'm hoping that we can get that momentum and get a vote. But as you said, time's running out here.
One thing that jumps out to me is that estimates show we could raise $500 billion by taxing just 200 companies, a minimum of 15% and less than 1,000 Americans. What does that say about massive inequality at the super top and bottom in this country right now?
Well, I think you made this point very well about a few minutes ago about the fact that some of our companies who do business here and take advantage of our great law enforcement and our infrastructure don't actually pay anything at the end of the day, and that just doesn't make any sense. Everybody here pays something, and the idea that they're not even paying the minimum corporate rate makes no sense. So the 15% just adds up, and when people talk to me about it, that just is common sense. You know, I think we've got to figure out a way with all of this to make sure we pay for whatever we put up, whatever we propose, because we can't just keep borrowing on the backs of our kids and our grandkids. And I hear that all the time. Like, we've just got to be smart about this, and people are really worried about our economy. So figuring out all those provisions, Stephanie, you know, are tough. As you said before, the details really matter. You want to make sure you don't craft something that suddenly a bunch of lawyers figure out how to work around it. That doesn't work either. So, you know, this is what we're working on and around the clock, but it doesn't make any sense to me, as we're in good faith negotiations, which we've been with across the spectrum for weeks, that we'd hold up a vote on our bipartisan infrastructure package, which is the roads, the bridges, climate resiliency, getting lead out of our water. It doesn't. Why would you hold that up, millions of jobs a year, while we're negotiating the other package? And that's really what's left a lot of us scratching our head. And frankly, back home, for whether it's hardworking men and women of labor or others saying to me, why are you holding this up? And many of us are asking our leadership, please just bring this thing for a vote. Let's get this done across the finish line. Let's get a win for the country here.
Yeah, so you can see here they're really knee deep in negotiations. We got Senator Joe Manchin, who doesn't really want to. He's negotiating on everything, really, and we have a lot of progressive Democrats pushing back now at this point, pushing back on the child tax credits. We have multiple advocacy groups pushing for a $1,400 to $2,000 stimulus check in there for adults as well, in addition to the monthly checks for children. So the child tax credits in there, and advocacy groups pushing for checks in addition to the child tax credits. We have the paid family and medical leave that is being combated against Joe Manchin as well. Joe Manchin is pushing against that as well. We have Bernie Sanders fighting for the Medicare provisions, hearing, dental, and vision for seniors, that over 75% of seniors do not have those benefits, as well as lowering the Medicare eligibility age to age 60, which would provide about 25 million more seniors would be eligible for Medicare. And also, they're looking to add an $800 stimulus debit card for seniors on Medicare. An $800 debit card, a stimulus debit card, a Medicare voucher, whatever you want to call it. It's got several different names here, that would help pay for medical and dental. I do think it would be, if you're contacting your representatives, I do think it would be better to just send it out as cash, as a stimulus check, so that seniors can pay for anything. They could pay for rent, they could pay for food, they could pay for bills. But it is good that they're adding things in here at the last moment. Remember, this is how the second stimulus check was added, at the very last moment. They actually added the second stimulus check in there after they wrote the bill. They added it in at the very last moment as well, and that they took $160 billion away from states and cities. So they do make changes and additions at the very last moment, and that's why making your voice heard at the very last moment is a good thing. And they have, or they're considering adding this in at the very last moment as well. So there are a lot of things going on here as well at the very last moment. Senator Joe Manchin is addressing the status of the paid leave proposal. He may be against this as well. Senator Joe Manchin said he is reviewing the paid leave and medical leave proposals as part of ongoing negotiations of President Biden's spending bill, the stimulus package. Earlier, Senator Kirsten Gillibrand said she would approach Manchin about the policy, saying, quote, "I want to look at everything. We should look at all this stuff. There's a lot of things that could be good," Manchin said. But the truth is, in a reconciliation bill, major policies is not the place to do it, meaning that this should maybe be done in a standalone bill. But I'm not sure if Republicans would support anything coming from the Democratic Party at this point. So, and really, that's why the Democrats are trying to push a lot of this stuff through. Because at this point, Republicans are not supporting anything coming out of the Democratic Party at all, for the most part. So Manchin is questioning even the paid family and medical leave proposal in the stimulus package, and really kind of questioning everything at this point. But on the other hand, he said that they could have a deal by this week. So Manchin says that a deal on the Biden agenda could happen this week. So it's funny. It's like he at some point it almost feels like he's just going to say, "All right, I agree." And it's weird because that's what he did with the third stimulus check package. He finally just said, "All right, I agree to everything. Let's just make a deal." And that's what both him and Kirsten Sinema did with the third stimulus check package. They kind of did all this stuff, and then at the very last moment, they just voted on everything and just said, "All right, we have a deal." So apparently, Joe Manchin himself says that they're very close to a deal, and it could be done this week. Uh, Whether or not that'll happen this week or how close they are, well, we'll have to see. So I will keep you up to date with everything going on with this next stimulus package going on in our country, as well as big Social Security raises. We had two big proposals that just came out like within the last 48 hours to raise Social Security benefits. And I have rent assistance that is available in all 50 states. I just did a big video on that. I'll link you to those here in a moment. If you haven't subscribed to the channel, make sure to subscribe down below. Literally just click subscribe. It's completely free to do so. You can also share this video with your friends and family down below so that they know what is going on and they can get these benefits as well. So you can click right here to find out how to apply for rent assistance. You can get 3 to 12 months of your rent paid from the federal government, and this video shows you how to do it. And this video has two different bills that were just proposed by Congress to raise the Social Security benefits by pretty big amounts. So click on one of those videos next. Thanks, guys, and I will see you in the next video.